We're building a yoga studio.
Can you tell I'm a little excited? So for those of you who have been here for a while, you would know that in 2017, we converted the downstairs area of our coast house into a yoga space. And while that was a really great first attempt at making a home yoga space, I learned a lot of lessons there, which is just a nice way of saying I made a lot of mistakes. So while I show you around this brand new home studio space that we're building from scratch, I thought we might talk about some of the things that I learned building a home studio space and some of the changes I'm making to this one, so you might not make the same mistakes that I did.
But first, let me take you back and show you where this all started. While I did try and help to mark out the frames, mostly I got bored waiting for the next instruction because I had no idea what I was doing and practiced my handstands instead. Eventually, I did manage to talk Andrew into getting his brother, who does this for a living and actually knows what he's doing, to come and give us a hand so this doesn't literally take us a decade to finish.
So as you can see, we have just built a giant shed. We had hoped to have this ready and done by now, but Andrew snapped his bicep tendon mid last year, so that was a full 12-week recovery. So we're a little bit behind, and look, life is super busy with 3 kids, and we're constantly at sport on the weekend. So it's going a lot slower than we'd hoped, but yoga has taught me anything. Patience is it, and it will come together this year. It's our goal to get this space up and ready. So by the end of the year, I'm hopefully teaching here, filming here, doing all my work out of this space. So this right here is the entrance to the studio. So picture a sliding door on your way in, and then I want you to picture all of this with sheeting. We'll probably go around that pole just to maximize on space. And we've got huge ceilings, so it'll be a bit of a pitched ceiling. I'm still undecided whether I want to put pendant lights up there or whether I just want to do down lights and keep it really simple and minimalistic. Let me know in the comments what you think. So there will also be an internal wall running along here that we're going to build. And again, all sheeted. There'll be a niche where I'll have bolsters and blocks and things. So that will cut into some of this space on this side and not take up any more of my space. When we first built the shed, and it's entirely my own misunderstanding of the measurements and not being very good spatially, I thought I was getting a third of the shed. And as it turns out, I was getting a quarter of the shed, which is still fine. He's given me more of that space for the bathroom, but anyway, I like to rub that in that I've only got a quarter of it. So we're also going to have a solid glass panel along that back wall. Andrew wanted to put sliders in that space so that you could open up and go out there, but I really want to keep that space so that I can film against that wall and not have any door frames in the background. Like, I just want it to be the view, and that's basically all you can see. It does mean that we will air condition this space though, because it does get quite hot here and quite cold here. And I just want to have that control so that if I'm teaching in the middle of winter, I can make it nice and warm and toasty to get started. If it's in the heat of summer, I can cool it down. And so I'm currently thinking of keeping it pretty minimalistic once I get to the actual designing, the fun part. I think I'm going to do the same flooring as what's in our house, white walls. I think I'll put some hanging plants into the space. What do you think? Do I put some shelving up with some things on it just to kind of soften the space and make it feel a little bit more homely? Or do I keep it sparse and minimalistic? What are your thoughts? So I'm not sure if you can hear that noise in the background. I'm really hoping my mic is enough to pick up my voice only and not the sound. Oh, there we go again. Can you hear that? That's the sound of one of my neighbours across a river and a valley. It sounds like a blower or something like that. So this was one of the huge mistakes we made at the other place. There was really no soundproofing in our other studio. And when you're in a residential space, there are people renovating, there are people working on their homes, mowing their lawns. And I would always either go to film or teach an in-person class, and someone was always making lots of noise. So obviously this space is not soundproof yet. We haven't even got all the walls in place. We haven't done any of the sheeting. We are literally just bare bones at the moment. But that is something that I am definitely considering this time, is making sure it feels nice and quiet and womb-like, and putting in all the insulation in the walls, in the roof, to hopefully make the space as quiet as possible so that overstimulated mums like me can come into the space and get that reprieve from all the noises in our everyday lives. And in our old space, it wasn't just outside noises that were a problem. Because we were a 2-story house and the studio was downstairs, when Andrew was looking after the boys upstairs, and we had a very young family at the time, the boys were 7, 4, and 1, inevitably at some point during the class, usually in those really quiet moments like Shavasana, the boys would run through the house or scream upstairs. And because there was no soundproofing between the levels, because it was just a regular residential house, you could hear everything downstairs. Luckily for me, most of my community was mothers anyway, and they completely got it. But it didn't feel good to me to go and teach in that space. This space, however, is a short walk from my house. My house is just over there. The shed is completely separate to my house, and my kids are a bit older. So now we've got a 6-year-old, a 9-year-old, and a 12-year-old, and they can be up there quietly, hopefully. I'm really hoping Luca in particular, my youngest, won't come down and investigate during those classes, and I can have the space and the quiet to teach an uninterrupted class. So this one is a little bit of a positive and a negative. In my last space, I had a separate room that I used as a kids' room. So it was a playroom. I was mostly teaching mums and bubs yoga at the time, and I extended that to toddlers. So I could have toddlers in the playroom playing with toys and things while their mums were out practicing in the main room. Good and bad. Good because I had the space, I could offer that to mums. I'm not going to have this in this space. I'm actually really excited to just teach general classes. Anyway, back to the point, with the kids' room, it was great to have that space and to be able to offer that, but also every time I went to teach a class, because my kids would also use that playroom when I wasn't teaching classes, it would inevitably be a shit show to clean up, and I'd have to go and clean everything before I could even teach a class. But this space will be great because it's separate from my house. I can lock the door when I leave. This won't be a space that my kids play in. It's not going to be a playroom or anything other than a space where I teach yoga classes and I film yoga classes. I cannot wait to have this space purely for those two things. And speaking of filming classes in a home yoga space, you need to consider light, hence this giant window, which will eventually be a sheet of glass looking at mountains. You want to have great lighting if you're filming classes. And my last studio just didn't have that. It was downstairs in my house. There was a big sliding door and glass window, but because there was also an outdoor area off that, it really shielded the amount of light that was coming into the space. So it was just too dark to film, and I had to use studio lights. And while they do fill the gap and they do work if you have to, ideally, if you're building from scratch like we are, plan to have lots of light. Not just because it creates a really beautiful, welcoming space for those people coming to your classes, but if you are planning on filming in the space as well, it's going to make your videos look much better. And it's going to make you look like you have less wrinkles. Just a little side note. So right here, there'll be a door where you'll step into what will be a bathroom. So we'll have a toilet, a shower, and then just a little bench with a sink where you can wash your hands. So this is another super important consideration if you are setting up a home yoga space, is somewhere that people can go to the toilet. You really don't want your students having to go into the house, and I certainly don't, because they would have to walk up and around. My kids are going to be in the house. I really want this space to be very separate from the home space. That is definitely a key goal here, is there needs to be divide between my work and my home life. I think that's important for me mentally, but it's also important for the feeling that I can create in the yoga class. So that's all I can update you on for now. I just wanted to share where we were up to in this process. I've been sharing about it on my Instagram, and I'm so excited to have it done. If you want me to continue documenting the build as we go along, let me know in the comments and I can do that. Maybe you're also interested in the business side of things, how I'm going to market my classes, where I'm going to share them, setting up a business name. I also don't have a business name for the studio space yet. So all things in good time. Thanks for being here. Let me know if you'd like to see more of this, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.